Do you have a plan to contain the coronavirus in the U.S.?
We do have a plan, and we think it's going to be handled very well. We've already handled it very well. Now, the virus that we're talking about having to do, a lot of people think that goes away in April with the heat, as the heat comes in. Typically, that will go away in April. We're in great shape, though. The virus. They're working hard. Looks like by April, in theory, when it gets a little warmer, it miraculously goes away. I hope that's true. We have done an incredible job. We're going to continue. It's going to disappear. One day, it's like a miracle. It will disappear.
In the name of Jesus, God, for this group holding up the arm.
Yes, Lord. Yes.
Now the Democrats are politicizing the coronavirus. You know that, right? Coronavirus. It's all turning, Ross. It's all turning. Think of it. Think of it. And this is their new hoax.
Trump's ignorance caused a health crisis in America. Trump's negligence allowed coronavirus in America. Trump's arrogance caused an economic mess in America. Trump's incompetence caused thousands of deaths in America. In America. In America. Obama's team taught Trump's team in 2017. Trump disbanded our response team in 2018. It started in China and quickly gained steam in 2019. It spread throughout the world like a nightmare of a dream. COVID-19. January, February 2020 on every Fox News station. Trump held rallies and off every day. He failed to protect our nation. He said no problem, it's under control every other day. And then he said like a miracle, it will just go away. Not enough ventilators, tests, or masks. We needed to make them and make them fast. Trump was slow, he took too long. Every step he took, Trump was wrong! Trump was wrong! Trump only cares about re-election. November of this year. Inherit economy, resurrection. We die, he has no fear. Back to work, he orders us to go. Risking our lives, although he knows many more of us are likely to die. But he can always tell another lie. It's up to us to say no. Not yet, not yet. Trump's ignorance caused a health crisis in America. Trump's negligence allowed coronavirus in America. Trump's arrogance caused an economic mess in America. Trump's incompetence caused thousands of deaths in America. In America. In America.
The Trump administration's response to the coronavirus pandemic has been a deliberate disaster from the beginning. But don't take my word for it, just look at the facts. In 2018, Trump let the Pandemic Preparedness Office in the National Security Council simply dissolve, and followed up with budget cuts to Health and Human Services and the Center for Disease Control this year. That team's job had been to follow a pandemic playbook written after global leaders fumbled their response to Ebola in 2014. Trump was briefed on the playbook's existence in his first year. Had he listened, the government would have started getting equipment to doctors 2 months before the virus hit our shores. The initial outbreak of the coronavirus began in Wuhan, China in December 2019.
Well, at first, I think the authorities in Wuhan weren't quite sure what they were facing, but once they realized that there were so many victims from one market, on New Year's Day, January 1st, they ordered that market shut down.
By mid-January 2020, the White House had intelligence reports that warned of a likely pandemic. On January 18th, HHS Secretary Azar spoke with Trump to emphasize the threat of the virus, just as U.S. diplomats were being evacuated from Wuhan. 2 days later, the virus was confirmed in both the United States and South Korea.
We have it totally under control. It's one person coming in from China.
That week, South Korean officials immediately drafted medical companies to develop test kits for mass production. The World Health Organization declared a global health emergency. But Donald Trump did nothing. As Hubei province went on lockdown, Trump, who loves any excuse to enact a racist travel ban, barred entry of any foreigners coming from China. This was hardly proactive, but took no additional steps to prepare for infection in the United States. He said,
Well, we pretty much shut it down, coming in from China.
Trump didn't ramp up production of test kits so we could begin isolating the virus. By February, the United States had 14 confirmed cases, but the Center for Disease Control's test kits proved faulty. There weren't enough of them, and they were restricted to only people showing symptoms. The United States pandemic response was already failing. Trump then began actively downplaying the crisis and baselessly predicting it would go away when the weather got warmer.
You know, a lot of people think that goes away in April with the heat, as the heat comes in. Typically that will go away in April. We're in great shape, though.
Trump decided there was nothing to see here, and on February 24th took time out of his day to remind us that the stock market was soaring. A day later, Center for Disease Control officials sounded the alarm that daily life could be severely disrupted.
Current global circumstances suggest it's likely that this virus will cause a pandemic.
The window to get ahead of the virus by testing and containment was closing. Trump's next move?
The flu in our country kills from 25,000 people to 69,000 people a year.
He compared coronavirus to the seasonal flu, and he called the emerging crisis a hoax by the Democrats.
And this is their new hoax.
Trump declined to call for a national emergency because
I really think we're in extremely good shape.
Meanwhile, South Korea was now on its way to testing 250,000 people, while the United States was testing 40 times slower. When a cruise ship containing Americans with coronavirus floated toward San Francisco, Trump said,
I don't need to have the numbers double because of one ship. That wasn't our fault.
He didn't want people coming off the ship to be tested because they'd make the numbers look bad. It wasn't until the stock market reacted to the growing crisis and took a nosedive that Trump finally declared a national emergency.
To unleash the full power of the federal government in this effort today, I am officially declaring a national emergency.
By this time, South Korea had been using an app for over a month that pulled government data to track cases and alert users to stay away from infected areas.
To ease people's anxieties, college students in South Korea came up with an idea to make a map showing the locations that confirmed patients have visited.
Here, we did nothing. Over the next weeks, as the virus began its exponential spread across the United States, and governors declared states of emergency, closing schools and workplaces and stopping the American economy in its tracks.
This is something we have not seen in modern times. Life in this country really changing in unimaginable ways.
Trump passed on every opportunity to get ahead of this crisis. His priority was never public health. It was about making the virus seem like less of a nuisance so that the numbers would look good for his re-election. Only when the stock market crashed did Trump finally begin to pay attention, and mostly to bailing out big corporations in the form of a massive $500 billion slush fund, rather than helping ordinary Americans. And then, with much of America finally and belatedly in lockdown, he said at a Fox News town hall that he would
love to have the country opened up and just raring to go by Easter.
At every point, Trump has used this crisis to compliment himself.
I like this stuff. I really get it. People are surprised that I understand it. Maybe I have a natural ability. Maybe I should have done that instead of running for president. Number one on Facebook. Did you know I was number one on Facebook? And I just found out I'm number one on Facebook.
But this is not leadership. This is the exact opposite of leadership.
Dr. Fauci said earlier this week that the lag in testing was, in fact, a failing. Do you take responsibility for that? And when can you guarantee that every single American who needs a test will be able to have a test? What's the date of that?
Yeah, no, I don't take responsibility at all.